Let's have a quick listen. Here's Anthony Albanese still blaming basically outsiders and Sky News, and Peter Credlin in particular, for pointing out that the Uluru Statement wasn't one page. No, it was 26 pages, as Megan Davis herself pointed out on numerous occasions. But here he was last night blaming the news media outlet that had brought this to the world, Australia's attention. Have a listen.
We have had a very clear proposition of just two things: recognition and a non-binding advisory committee. But we've had, including in outlets represented in this room, discussions about a whole range of things that were nothing to do with what was on the ballot paper tonight.
Oh, he's angry there. He, of course, blames the news media for doing its job. And, you know, Peter Credlin and myself were two of the only journalists who really pushed this notion from the start that the Uluru Statement was longer. And he denied this. It was absolutely bizarre thing. And then this became this article of faith. But I'll tell you what, I read those 26 pages, and I read all of the minutes of all of the other meetings in that 2017, 2018 period from Hobart throughout the entire country. And what was in there was really concerning, because the thing that Albanese did through this whole thing was he pretended that this was not a big thing, just a modest request, but then you dive into it and it was very big. And from the very start, when he announced this, voice, treaty, truth-telling, whatever that means, and we know what sort of Orwellianism that means, he said this is this much bigger agenda, and Australians weren't going to fall for it, because there's no way that this thing could have no accountability and no power and yet make all the changes. So how's it going to do it? Well, that gap there, that is where 60% of the Australian people said, look, we want great outcomes for Aboriginal Australians, but we do not want to be a country that looks at us differently because of where we come from or how long we've been there.
Yeah, I can't believe this has just been a tremendous outcome on behalf of the Australian people. Australians have voted to stay united rather than accept the division put forward by this arrogant Prime Minister. And I'm just so thankful that Australians in suburbs across Australia, in the regions, got it right. In fact, the only people that were voting yes, Canberrans, and those, you know, very privileged, highly educated Australians
well, let's
in
talk
wealthy
about
suburbs.
that, Rita.
Well, yeah, this is the divide, where, and this is something I really do hope that the coalition take a lesson from, that their base, their future is no longer in those teal seats, those inner city affluent seats. They're gone, just like they've gone in the UK, the US. The affluent are voting left, but the middle classes, the aspiring classes, those who are wanting a better future for their kids, they're the ones who've been deserted by traditional leftist parties. There
was a fascinating debate last night on Sky on the panel there. Terrific job by Sky last night covering it. It was superb.
There was a bit of sadness.
The key debate there was a bit of sadness. There was also an awful lot of nonsense talked by a couple of the panellists, but I wouldn't dare say which ones. That's up for viewers to choose for themselves. But there was a good debate about the question of what this means for the Albanese government. And as far as I'm concerned, as I was just saying, Albo has no future. He offered nothing except two $75 cuts. He didn't deliver those. There's nothing else there. He's completely out of touch, Bridget, with the Australian electorate.
Absolutely, and he showed it once again. Whilst people are struggling to pay their mortgages, struggling to pay their energy bills, worrying how they're going to pay for the kids' sporting fees, given how the family budget's looking, this guy is running around in a Yes T-shirt instead of actually dealing with their everyday concerns. And they felt left behind by him.
But one of the most interesting bits of analysis that's come out from the political pundits, and it's not just at the ABC and the Guardian, you hear it elsewhere, is this just genius sort of analysis that Peter Dutton defeating this referendum, well, this is actually terrible for him. This is really going to be...
That's the spin that's coming.
That was the comedy.
That was the comedy stuff I was referring to. This is just going to be the end of his any aspirations he have to be Prime Minister. What's your response to the political pundits who are pushing this quite strongly?
Well, you have to completely reject it. I mean, at every step of the way, Peter Dutton, as leader of the Liberal Party and obviously the coalition, we came out with our position as the Nats. He has led, I think, a really good process for the Liberal Party. He wrote to the Prime Minister with legitimate and sensible questions in January, still no response. Australians were going to the polls yesterday wanting answers to those questions, offering to, let's just carve out the recognition piece of the referendum question, leave the voice for another day, like the Karma Langton report suggested. Again, refused by this incredibly arrogant Prime Minister. So I think Dutt's got the tone right. And even last night, doubling down on our efforts to address closing the gap for our vulnerable Indigenous Australians, tick. That's what everyone wants.